No songs today. Wouldn't be right. Hello, everybody. I'm Russ Kane. This is The Daily Show. Phil's actually attending a memorial service of somebody that we both know, somebody in the industry. It's a family member of somebody that we work with, one of the producers we work with at Talk TV. Very nice family. So Phil's attending that, and it's a long old drive to where he's got to go. However, we do have our theatre critic, Mr. Jonathan Baz, with a unique and very special interview, which I'm going to be playing out fairly shortly. And we, of course, at 12:30, she is here, gracing us with her charm, her expert opinion. Chantal, Rickards, over you. But first, let's go straight to Mr. Jonathan Baz.
Russ,
hey, JB.
Good afternoon.
How are you doing?
Great to be with you. So yes, first up today is a very lovely conversation that I had quite recently with Tracy Ann Oberman. Was very lucky to grab her. She was
unbelievably lucky. Jonathan, because I don't want you to make light of this. One, I'm a huge fan of Tracy Ann Oberman. She's a brilliant actress and actor, as you're supposed to say these days, but also an amazing human being. But I want you to explain to everybody all over the world why it was just how difficult it is to get her.
Well, I'm going to let her talk about the production.
Of course, I'm talking about it's a big coup for you to get.
She's a ridiculously busy person. This play has literally come straight out of the RSC in Stratford-on-Avon, going into the West End. It's
on at the Criterion,
busy.
Isn't it? By Piccadilly.
It's on at the Criterion. It starts on the 15th of February. It's the Merchant of Venice, and she'll talk about why it's quite so special to her. She's only this morning I learned that she's got a show opening next month, a musical that she's written about Betty Davis. So she is.
Is it called Betty Davis Eyes?
She is an absolute powerhouse. She's also an activist as well. She's very outspoken on the causes of prejudice.
No, I don't know if she's outspoken. She's brave and she speaks the truth. Yeah, Kimmy, I've just explained that. He's at a memorial service. He's absolutely fine.
I'll take your correction there. She's a brave and strongly spoken and principled activist.
Highly principled and takes more abuse than anybody else. Her and Rachel Riley take more abuse than anybody else I've ever known.
Indeed.
But then the trolls and the filth on the internet, we know that.
But it was a delight and a privilege. I mean, sadly, she was in and out of rehearsals. And as she said to me when we started the interview, her hair looked as though she'd been dragged through the back of a bush. So she elected not to go on camera for the interview, which I was relatively sympathetic.
But you've been in hair and makeup for about 20 minutes, so
and it still doesn't work.
You look get a rebate. So what we're going to do now, and Jonathan did this all, and I'm so impressed. So we will disappear, and you will shut up, Kimmy Lashmar. It's piddling down with rain, and you're in the pool in Lanzarote. I hate you. Look at this. Don't like her anymore. Sorry, just joined you from around the pool in Lanzarote. Ooh. Swine. Can't wait to get out of this country and away from a load of things. Right, ladies and gentlemen, let's play the interview. Jonathan and I will disappear, and off we jolly well go, all being well.
It's an absolute pleasure to be joined, albeit off camera, as she's hurtling around on a ridiculously busy schedule, by Tracy Ann Oberman. Tracy Ann, of course, of significant television fame for a variety of roles. But more interestingly, for the last year, Tracy has been taking her production of The Merchant of Venice, renamed Merchant of Venice 1936. It opened in Watford last year. It's been touring around the country, and it's about to go into the West End at the Criterion Theatre. Tracy, it is lovely to have you with us on the show. And please explain to me your journey into the show, what you've made that's quite distinctive about it, and taking it on the road.
I was happy to talk to you about it, Jonathan. And I think if I remember correctly, I invited you in very early on to this production to have a look at at the early workshops that we did with the RSC. Um, I think we come from a similar background, so you get the territory. I've always hated this play. I've always found it deeply problematic, but I found it even more problematic to hear people saying that it shouldn't be performed anymore. I think Juliet Stevenson was saying it shouldn't be put in the canon. And whilst it would be lovely to take anything that's offensive out of our eye, I always thought it would be great to reclaim the play. And I wondered what would happen if you took this deeply anti-Semitic portrayal of a Jewish moneylender who ends up signing a contract with a very anti-Semitic Venetian aristocrat for a pound of flesh if he can't pay the debt back, and then ends up in court with him to get that pound of flesh. I always thought, what would happen if I turned that character into a female, very much like all the matriarchs, like my great-grandmother, my Bubba Annie, who came over from Belarus, and my other great aunt, Machine Gun Molly, and the other one, Sarah Portugal, who wore a slash of red lipstick and smoked a pipe. These were strong, tough women who'd escaped the pogroms at very young ages, from the Pale of Settlements in Belarus. They'd seen all the horrors and they got to England. And my great grandmother always called England the Golden Medina. She loved England, even though they lived in the slum tenements in the East End and no one particularly liked them. Nobody was trying to kill them. And then I was brought up with tales of this strong woman and my grandmother and my great uncles standing up to fascism and Oswald Mosley and the British Union of Fascists in 1936 at the Battle of Cable Street with all their neighbours. And I thought that would be an interesting mashup to take this female Shylock, see what it does to her relationship with her daughter, her one daughter, and also to see what it's like setting it in England in the 1930s, where there was a huge rise in, aristocratic fascism. I mean, we dodged having a king who was nearly, was great friends with Hitler. Edward was huge friends with Hitler, and I thought it was an undiscovered and unremembered part of British history at a time when we're looking at slavery and colonialism. I thought we should be reminded of the Battle of Cable Street. So that was the genesis of it.
It's I've had the privilege of seeing it twice. I saw it firstly when as you mentioned, I saw it in development at that workshop, some while back last year when it opened in Watford, and then of course last year when on its tour it came into London, seeing it at Wilson's just off of Cable Street, a very emotive location to see the play performed at.
Because that was obviously where the Battle of Cable Street took place. It was where my great grandmother, who I based Shylock on, lived, and all my family lived in those slum tenements. I loved the fact that the battle was raging outside. I also loved the fact that I was brought up with tales about how the Jewish community thought they were going to be standing on their own at Cable Street, because Mosley marched with his fascist hordes on the Jews, and they fully expected to be standing alone. And they were joined by the working class Irish neighbours, the small Afro-Caribbean community, the dockers, the unionists, and ordinary heroes from all over the country came down and said, if you attack the Jews, you attack us all. And they all stood together. And I just think it was a brilliant moment. But more than anything, what has really surprised me is that this little play that I started years ago, thinking about and developing, and then worked with Bridget Larmore from Watford Palace Theatre on how we could get it to work, has become a bit of a movement. I mean, it's as you know, Jonathan, it started off as a small idea, and then it's been on this huge tour around the country. It's been sold out everywhere.
So tell me about taking it was a grueling tour that you undertook, I think really through the autumn. Please tell me about taking this story around the country.
Okay, so I hate touring. I mean, I really don't do it very often. And if I do, I tend to do, they call it the Waitrose tour. It's like, 6 weeks anywhere there's a nice Waitrose, and then you come into the West End. But this was a real mission statement for me. It's such an important piece of work. It's short, it's sexy, it's punchy. And my aim was to get people in to see a piece of Shakespeare that they'd never seen before. My aim was to get people to come in and see this play and to understand the really nasty anti-Semitism and othering of the play, and also to remember how close Britain comes perennially with extreme fascism, and also it allows extremism. So that was a very potent combination, and I think people could sense that it came from a very authentic place. And we went all around the country to do a 13-week tour, sold out at the Royal Shakespeare Company. We pretty much sold out in every venue we went to, and that was from Malvern to York to Cardiff, all over the country. And people were, coming back 2-3 times to see it because it really spoke to them. And I think, we had people who'd never seen a Shakespeare before who said, wow, it's an hour and a half long. It's really short, and I understood everything. The theatres say since COVID, this show has been one of our biggest sellers in these theatres. I just blew my mind. So now to be invited back to the RSC for another sellout run, and then to be asked to go into the West End when it's really hard to get shows into the West End, it's a journey of I just can't believe it. And that's all thanks to our incredible audiences and supporters. So I can't thank people enough.
Tracy, I'm going to thank you. Thank you so much for talking to me about the show. It's on for everyone's benefit. It is on at the Criterion Theatre in London. It opens at the 15th of February and it's playing until the 23rd of March. As Tracy said, it's short. The script has been neatly tailored and edited. I think the whole evening is 2 hours. It's Shakespeare as you've never heard it before, and I can't recommend it highly enough. Go and see it. Tracy Ann, thank you ever so much for joining me.
And Jonathan, thank you. You've been a real champion of this project from the beginning, and you know your onions from your onions as far as theatre goes. I've read your reviews for years. So to have your endorsement on this it means the world. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
And that is why I was so thrilled on The Daily Show when Jonathan and I made contact, and we did it all ourselves to make sure that you could have the best theatre critics around. To get that from Tracy Ann Oberman, absolutely terrific. Well done, Jonathan. There is so much to draw out from that interview. There is so much, because it is a horrible play, and it's all the ghastly tropes. And do you know how it came about? It's interesting because everything comes down to money, which some people
And
don't seem
she,
to understand. No, just explain this.
Yeah, sure.
Christopher Marlowe wrote The Jew of Malta, and it was a big hit. And Shakespeare up the road, like one of his rivals, thought, damn, he's got a big hit on his hands. I better get a hit in my hands. I'll get a play with a Jew in it, and I'll do Merchant of Venice. And that's what it was. It was merely a commercial. Nothing changes. It was merely a commercial move to get it. And of course, the rest, as they say, is history. She's an amazing person. To do this is great. The fact that you were one of the first people to champion it is terrific. And well done you.
And indeed, it's a play that wouldn't be written today. It's a play, Shakespeare.
Oh, it would. Would.
You're probably right.
The Corbyn strolling players, presumably.
Sorry, Russ, you're right. It would be.
Of course, it would
today.
Be bloody. Of course, it would be shown.
Shakespeare wrote a clever play around a ghastly trope, probably long before the word trope had even been thought of. But I have to say, even though it's a play that is ugly, it is about tropes. I do believe it should stand in the canon. It should still be played. It should still be performed. And I think when you get theatre makers like Tracy, who put this interpretation together of it, there'll be other interpretations, I hope, in the future. But hers really is quite remarkable, and it's given a very thrilling and real context by putting it in 1936 at the Battle of Cable Street.
It's very interesting what she was saying. By the way, here's a question from Graham Pack, and then I'm going to.
Let me answer that straight away. It's the straight text.
The question, if you're just listening and you're not watching this, it is, which is going to be the way going forward, is the play in modern day English or Shakespearean?
Well, nearly every Shakespearean production that I've seen is in Shakespearean English. What Tracy and Bridget Larmore, the artistic director of Watford Palace, what they've done is to actually trim and snip a few bits out of it. And on some occasions, some gender words have been swapped. So his to her, reflecting the fact that Tracy
They
is
to
a woman.
them.
No, there's
Sam
no they.
Smith.
And I'm not aware of there being any they-them gender issues in it,
That's
but
crap,
there have been some common sense amendments to the gender issues of Shylock. But other than that, it's Shakespeare as he wrote it, with a few edits having been made.
Yeah,
but no rewrites.
One of the proudest things my dad and his brothers and my uncles did was when Oswald Mosley, that disgusting piece of shit, was creating the British Union of Fascists. Endorsed, I mean, loved by the then king. He loved it. And Wallace Simpson. Gosh, it's not like history's repeating itself, is it? What is it about American divorcees? Anyhow, here's the thing. And he thought he was going to get away with it. They fought running battles with them and beat the crap out of them. And that's the only way you can deal with stuff like that. You can't argue with them. You can't logic with them. It's like people. You just got to take direct action sometimes. And I was so proud that my family had done that.
Indeed.
Really
And my mum also fought on the Battle of Cable Street. So I'll may she rest in peace. She was there too. Right, let's move on.
What else you got?
Right.
What you got to cheer us all up with your lovely theatre reviews?
Jeffrey Bernard is unwell.
That's not a
statement.
Is that back?
It is indeed. It's
Wow.
on for a month only. It's playing on Monday nights and Tuesday nights only.
Yeah.
And Russ, I know you have a regular Saturday morning coffee and cigar in Soho. It's actually on at the Coach and Horses pub.
I was praying you were going to say that.
It is on at the Coach and Horses pub
wow.
on Monday and Tuesday nights. And while the play is on, and it takes place literally in the pub. This isn't pub theatre where the theatre is above the pub, where there's some fabulous stuff that goes on in rooms above
There is.
pubs,
There's also some absolute garbage, but
there is true. There is. This actually is in the pub. Robert, I'm not sure how to pronounce his surname. It's either Bathurst or Bathurst. Robert Bathurst.
I thought it was. It doesn't matter. I know who you mean, and you know his face.
Either way, it's a one-man show. He plays Jeffrey Bernard, who, of course, was one of the great columnists. I think on the Spectator. Years ago, before alcohol claimed him. He was a brilliant wit, a very sharp observer of the world around him, and a consumer of huge amounts of alcohol, which I suspect only sharpened his wit even further, as much as it may have blunted his liver. And Robert Bathurst takes Jeffrey Bernard for 1 hour, and we have this fantastic look back on his life commentary delivered by this one guy, in and out of behind the bar, in amongst the seats of the punters who are sitting down in the pub. It is brilliant. It is a tour de force of acting. Keith Waterhouse wrote the play, and gosh, I think it was Peter O'Toole, many years ago, who first created the role.
It was Peter O'Toole.
On a West End stage. I didn't see it then. This, in fact, was the first time that I've actually seen the play. It only lasts an hour, and then the pub starts selling alcohol again. So if you're going to go and see it, I strongly recommend you get your drink in first so that you can sit and enjoy it and sup your pint or drink your gin and tonic or whatever it may be. It's brilliant. I didn't hesitate in giving it 5 stars. It's a fantastic piece of work from actor and from writer. It's gorgeous theatre. It's only on twice a week, Monday nights and Tuesday nights. I think there might be 2 performances, a 7 p.m. and a 9 p.m. I'm not sure. So please check on the if you Google Jeffrey Bernard is unwell, Coach and Horses, you'll find it, and you'll find how to get tickets.
But JB, brilliant. What a fabulous idea to put it right in Soho, in the pub. I mean, the other place I thought you might say is in the French house upstairs or something. They reconfigured the little restaurant up there, which is great.
It's in the pub
for years, but it was something
It's in the pub. He's in and out of the beer pumps and the taps. And he's got a glass of something. I'm sure Robert Bathurst is drinking something non-alcoholic to keep his head together on the script. But he's got a glass in his hand throughout. It's very funny. It's quite touching at times. And it's gorgeous theatre.
It's funny when you say something like that, because my mate Dickie Shelton, Richard Shelton, when he plays, he does a brilliant thing called
I've seen
Sinatra,
it a few years ago.
Sinatra Raw.
Crazy Cox.
Sinatra Raw is absolutely brilliant. And Sinatra's drinking his Jack Daniels on stage and getting nastier and nastier and nastier. And you're feeling really uncomfortable. And I said, what are you drinking? And he said, well, obviously it's apple juice. They're going to be drinking, knocking back half a bottle a night, 2 shows a night. That'd be a bottle of JD. That wouldn't be the thing. But it's interesting, but it's so effective. If you ever get the chance, Sinatra Raw with Richard Shelton. Don't know where it's going to be next. But anyway, it's a fabulous show. Really.
Next up, a lovely new play at the National about a rather grim story that plays out. It's called Till the Stars Come Down. It's at the Cotters, or now at the Dorfman Theatre, which is the smallest of the 3 national stages, written by a very talented English playwright, Beth Steele. And it is all about the wedding of one of 3 sisters to her husband. They live they're based in a Nottinghamshire, what was a mining village. Of course, the mines closed down many, many years ago. And Beth Steele focuses her writing on the impact of what deindustrialization has done to this northern town.
So when's it set?
It's set in the present day. It's set in the present day. And
it's a Victorian piece.
We also see, how the impact of Eastern Europeans into the United Kingdom, which took place when the European Union was expanded to include a lot of Eastern Europe, and that level of migration into the UK, and that has an impact on the economies of a lot of the country.
And they came here legally.
Absolutely,
I don't arrive in a rubber boat. They came in legally.
Indeed. Legal and legal migration under the free movement laws of the European Union. Absolutely. And the play touches on that and its impact upon the family, but also the play touches upon the dynamics, the jealousies, the wit, sometimes the absolute scorching wit. There's a fantastic performance from Lorraine Ashbourne as a wonderfully egomaniacal Auntie Carol. The 3 sisters' mother is sadly passed away, so they haven't got a mum. So this auntie takes it upon herself to be judge and jury across everything that's right and wrong in the family. And she does so brilliantly and beautifully. And of course, as the evening goes by and the vodka has flowed, it gets even more lively. There's a great performance too from Alan Williams as an ex-miner, a gnarled old boy, a great performance as their widowed father. And Beth Steele has really put together a very, very lovely look at a family and its dysfunctionalities and its rivalries and its jealousies. I won't say any more.
Do you think every family is dysfunctional? Because I've never met anybody who goes, no, my family's absolutely fine. They always go, God, you should meet my family. Ooh.
Yeah, I think we're all perfectly imperfect. Every man jack of us. Absolutely. And
now, Graham Pack is asking this. It's another very legit question. It seems to be set in the round. Are the audience on the stage? Or hate that?
No, they're not.
Okay.
No, it's set in the round. The actors are on the stage. The audience are on 4 sides.
I like traditional, seating in the proscenium arch, and that's what I like. I don't.
Yeah, to be fair, when you say traditional, I think the Romans invented in the round with the Colosseum. So it's been there for a while.
I don't need to see anybody getting speared either. By the way, in case you were thinking,
you obviously never saw the Romans in Britain.
Oh God, no! I remember as a kid the reviews. Jesus, that was horrible.
I remember the not 9 o'clock news sketch, which was one spear carrier chatting to another one as he looked out and says, "Well, I'll be buggered if I go out there tonight." Yeah, that was a great line.
If you don't know what we're talking about, there was a show called Romans in Britain play, and it was rough. I mean, wow, horrible. But you know, if you
but
want to
yes,
go
it's in the
see
round.
shock
It's in the
theatre
round.
do, it's not for me.
And funny enough, there it was at the National Until the Stars Come Down is at the National.
Mm.
But it's a lovely play. It's well worth seeing.
Good.
As I say, this take on Northern Britain and a village that's had the guts of it ripped out when the coal mine closed down. It's a very good piece of contemporary history, very good piece of domestic dysfunctionality. All in all, good fun.
I'm just gonna segue something in. There's a book coming out soon, which is all about the miners' strike, and it's written by. He's a pal, but he was always my arch nemesis. He's now Professor Robert Gilday, who was head of history at Oxford, and I've known Bob since we were at school, 9 years old, and it's a huge work that he's been working on, all about the miners' strike. And if that is your thing, contemporary history, politics, it'll be a work of art. I mean, the guy is an absolute genius, and his name's Robert Gilday, Professor Robert Gilday.
My
We
final
call him
point of
Bobby to
reference.
annoy. We call him Bobby to annoy him. But you can, when you've known someone since they're 9, you can do that.
Indeed.
Right, your final one.
My final point of reference is, and you mentioned, in fact, Richard Shelton and Sinatra Raw, which is a great cabaret show. My final point of reference is, I think, the first cabaret show that I've ever talked about on this radio slot, which is a show that I caught up with a couple of weeks ago called Me, Tom Self, and I. And it marks the cabaret debut of a young guy.
Of it.
Correct. Young man called Tom Self, early 30s. Very bravely put together an evening at the Crazy Cocks of his own songwriting. He's spent the last 10, 11 years or so. He's a very able musician, writing and arranging the music for countless pantomimes that have gone on up and down the country.
No, he didn't.
So, oh, yes, he did.
Come on, has to be done.
He
has to be done.
He knows his way around a tune. It was great on the night that I was there, which was, I say, a couple of weeks ago, and he's back again this Monday. He sat there very confident at the piano, and the audience was mainly full of family and friends on this occasion. And he observed that it was a bit like being at his own wake, which I thought was a very, very funny observation. He's penned all 10 of the songs, 11 songs, and he's got a couple of guests who sing with him through the evening. His confidence, his musical skills, and his lyrics are lovely. For a guy who's so relatively new to the business of performing his own writing, his songs show fabulous potential. One song in particular, called Post-Show Blues, written about the melancholy that descends on a show's cast when a run ends and the company break up.
Oh, yeah, it's horrible.
Had a lyric that I thought was fantastic. The lyric was how quickly an overture becomes the final bow. And I just thought, gosh, that is just lovely. And it really captures, I can only imagine the sadness when you've worked so intensively on a show with a cast of people.
I tell you this, having done it, it's a real, if you like the people you're working with, of course, if you don't like the people you're working with, it's a joy to say goodbye. But if it's normally, you love these people and you get to know them so well, it's a real jolt when you say goodbye to them. It's horrible. Sometimes you remain friends for life, which I'm blessed I've done with certain people, and other times you're never going to see them again. That's it, you know.
So the show is called Me, Tom Self, and I. It's on at the Crazy Cocks.
If you've never been to the Crazy Cocks, you are missing a treat. It's the loveliest cabaret setting in London, bar none. Beautiful,
Absolutely.
Intimate, charming. I've never seen a bad show there. It's great. I recommend it, as Jonathan says, 100%. It's fab.
It's one night only this Monday. Catch it if you can. It's good fun. And
maybe you could see that and on the same day go and see Jeffrey Barnard is unwell. You know, you could be rushing across town. No,
well, you could probably get the 9 o'clock if Tom's on at 7.
Yeah, you could do the 7 o'clock show with Tom and get the 9 o'clock. What a night
just around the corner.
What a night that would be. Come on. I want to congratulate you on your Tracy Ann Oberman interview. That was absolutely terrific. So many people have tried, so many people have failed, but you persisted. So bravo, you.
Thank you.
I will see you soon, one way or another. I can assure you of that.
I
Jonathan
look forward
Baz,
to it.
fabulous theatre critic, our very own, here on The Daily Show. Bless you. Take care. Have a lovely weekend.
And
Now is the moment many of you have been waiting. Jonathan Baz is just great, isn't he? Just he's genuinely, because it comes from the heart. What he does, it comes from the heart. And it doesn't come. He's never nasty. He's just honest. And I think you learn to trust some people's critiques. No one would dare, in my presence, critique our next regular on The Daily Show. She is both sublime and cerebral. She is both elegant and eloquent. I make this crap up on the spot, by the way. Ladies and gentlemen, you know her. You love her. She has an OBE. That's how much the royal family love her. She is Chantal Rickards.
You do make this stuff up on the spot. Most of it's drivel.
Of course it's drivel. Then most of life is drivel. That's what gets us through the complete drivel of life.
Oh,
how are you?
Sunshine?
How am I? I am good. I am good. The my celibate venture is hang on, gone mad. Hang on. I can hear now. My celibate venture, which I didn't know how it was going to go, but it's something I wanted to do deeply, has gone potty. I have 3 funerals and a memorial service this month in the next couple of weeks alone. Yeah, it's all gone like that, which is a huge honor, and it's a huge privilege, and it's the most satisfying thing I've ever done. And the book is coming up.
It's easy to write the eulogies. I mean, I know that you're a writer, you're a journalist, but
well, I'm not a no, not a journalist. Never been a journalist. No.
Okay.
Always been a writer, but never a journalist, I must say.
A writer, let's say a writer.
Yeah, thank you.
Does it become easy to you to adopt other people's emotions through what you're writing and what you're saying?
Yes. Okay. Because I've been. That's how I was always trained. Because as I bizarrely years and years ago, the first thing I did was speech writing. So you have to get into their thing. And then I went into copywriting, and then into script writing, then into light entertainment. Didn't really enjoy that. So I came straight into corporate, which I loved. And you have to take a brief from, Vauxhall or Ford or British Airways or whoever it is. God, you're the queen of it. You have to take the brief, you have to go away, and you have to give them what is right for them. And so that's always been my training. It's what I've always had to learn to do. So, the people I'm meeting are all different walks of life, but it's such a privilege to go into their home and learn about someone who's passed, and then do your best to honor, as I call the guest of honor, to honor them on the day. And also, in terms of mental health and well-being, to hold their hand. To hold their hand. I check up afterwards if they're okay, and because they're going through hell on earth. We've all been there. They're going through hell on earth, and they're not thinking straight. So you've got to keep them calm as well, and help them as much as you possibly can. Now, Grandpack, has Chantal become the Lady Mayoress of Wandsworth with the official chain around her? That's very good.
Funny.
That's very good. And Claridge says, Chantal, are you chained to your desk? No, she's a free agent. She can do whatever she wants.
I've moved my desk downstairs, so I'm now on the ground floor level as opposed to the first floor level.
The ground floor. So occasionally I'm allowed to help in the kitchen. Occasionally.
And a very good help you are too.
Well, you're very kind, but then you're a fantastic hostess. So it's and I go, can I do anything? And I usually get told to get lost, but I try. That's it, because I'm inevitably the first to arrive. I have no idea why. Just because I hate being late. Right. What have you found? Because I have found the square root of sod all to watch, to be perfectly honest.
Well,
absolutely nothing. Can't find anything.
You're not looking up. I was going to tell you about my week very briefly. I know you didn't ask, but I'm going to tell you anyway.
I'd like you
that
to.
I went to Krakow at the weekend to see my sister.
Oh, yes, your sister, of course, who lives in Poland. Yes.
indeed. And I went to Auschwitz for the 5th time. It's always brutal. I didn't do Birkenau this time, but it is always worth going to, because it sort of puts you in a place where it makes you think very, very hard and thank oneself for small mercies that we have on this planet. So that was the beginning of my week. Auschwitz was wet and miserable, and there was a sort of cold Baltic wind. And the experience is that, funny enough, the person I went with said they weren't impressed. And I thought, that's a really strange word to use.
Well, it's not West End theatre, is it?
Well, exactly. It was just a really odd way of looking at it. But because it's very played down, there are no big audio-visual panels or moving pictures or buttons to press. It's pretty much exactly the way that it's been for the 30 or 40 years that I've been visiting it. And it's very, very stark. And I think that we are now so used to going to these extraordinary museum experiences and installations and everything that's been modernized.
Immersive art and all of that stuff. Yes.
And actually, yeah, Auschwitz doesn't need that. But I think if you hadn't read up on it beforehand, you would go, but this feels like nobody's touched it for 40 or 50 years. And I'm sure that's exactly what they want you to think, that they've left it in time.
It hardly needs embellishing. It doesn't need embellishing, does it? I wonder, I got 2 questions for you. And the first question is this. And you've been several times. I've never had the courage to go, because it haunts me anyway. And if I went, I'm not sure I'd bounce back. It would take me a long, long time. Has anyone ever been while you've been there and go, well, I don't believe this?
No.
See, this is what I don't. I know it's off script or whatever. But what I'm saying is, if you're a Holocaust denier and you go and see it, what is the matter?
You wouldn't.
What is the matter with? Well, you wouldn't go because you wouldn't believe. You'd say it was built by Steven Spielberg, wasn't real. Yeah, jeez.
But no,
I've got a big question.
Yeah.
For you. You're in your own. You're not Jewish.
No.
You've been several times. What is it that makes you want to go back there?
Well, I take new friends each time I go. And the minute that you say to them, we're, going to Krakow, they all say, we've got to visit Auschwitz. So I always go with my guests. So that's the reason that I have been time and time again. I went originally with my sister 40 years ago when she first moved out there. And I have taken 4, friends of mine for weekends or a few days here and there out to Krakow, and everybody wants to go. And I think if you are that close, then you should go. I
kind of curse myself for my own cowardice for not having gone, but it haunts me so much, and I think about it daily, and especially since October 7th, and we've seen the reaction here and around the world. You think, well, really, it's 1936 all over again, frankly. And to be honest with you, if I could get a gun, I'd have one. But I can't. So there we are. No, that's how I feel. Sorry. I know. Terrible times. Because we're not going to go down again. Ain't going to happen. So I think it's magnificent that you go. And I think the people who go there, and you don't see people doing stupid selfies and all that. Please tell me you don't.
Well, that's interesting because, they do say to you at the beginning, please don't take photographs. But then as you go round, they will say, don't take a photograph in this room specifically or in that room specifically. But outside that, people are now regularly taking photographs and videos. And that is definitely a new thing. You never would have seen that 5 years ago. And now people are. But when you go into the horror chambers, you are absolutely specifically told that this is a place where people have died and it would be massively rude to take photographs. And so people don't take photographs.
It's desecration. It's desecration. I saw something absolutely fascinating. A load of kids, when I say kids, I mean teenagers and then up to like late 20s, right? Different, not they weren't together, and they'd done all these stupid, all of that sort of stuff. And what sensible people did, and they're posing ridiculous poses and all this crap, right? And what they did is they took these pictures of these ignorant twerps and put them back in the way that Auschwitz had been at the time. So when they're doing and all these stupid poses, they're surrounded by bodies, or they're surrounded by guards, or they're surrounded by machine gun. And you see, I use the word again, desecration of how these people with no sense of bloody history whatsoever, how it would have been had they been there in the 40s.
Yeah,
posing.
Very clever.
It was genius, and it showed them up. It shows them up for what they are: empty-headed idiots with no sense of. I'm not even going to say decorum because they wouldn't know what that word means. With no sense of humanity, I think is the word I'm probably looking for. Anyway,
that was the big, I know. But on Wednesday night, I went to the gala of the National Youth Theatre, who put on a great big hoolie, a proper old, knees up.
I apologise for not being able to accompany you, but thank you so much.
You would have loved it.
Oh,
you would have loved it. There were some fun people there, lots of great entertainment. Prince Edward was on cracking form.
Don't tell me he was on your table. I'll die.
No, his security was on. His security was on my table.
Was Sophie there? Was Sophie there?
Sophie wasn't there. She wasn't there. But I did talk to Edward, and he did about probably 7 or 8 minutes on stage with a handheld mic, walking up and down from one side of the stage to the other, asking people to be generous in their donations, cracking jokes. When the jokes didn't get a loud enough laugh, he was asking for more laughter. I mean, it was such a surprise.
Sweet.
And it was really
when Prince Edward.
I always think of him as a rather sort of locked down, sort of a quiet person.
Yeah.
But my God, he was having a fabulous time on Wednesday night.
When he left the Marines, remember he was in the Marines for about 7 minutes, and he left the Marines, and I was at some do. And I was ushered in to meet him. That's how long ago. How bizarre was that, right? And I go, why me? Russ was go meet Prince Edward. How do you do this? And all of that. And it was pretty surreal. Yeah. It was pretty surreal. Although I ask about Sophie because, of course, she and I worked together for many years at Capital Radio. And I was at some function. So I wouldn't have embarrassed you, but as you weren't there, and it was years ago, I was some function. I thought, I'm going to go and say hello. What the hell? Of course, she's surrounded by bodyguards and everything. And as I approached, and the bodyguards were like, who's this idiot walking across the restaurant, not the restaurant, the dining area. And she stood up and went, Russ, you reprobate, came over and gave me a big hug, which was sweet. And the bodyguards are going, who is this? It was a nice moment. She was so nice to work with. I'm not just saying it. She was great, completely normal, not posh in the least. Charming, funny girl. She was great. Everyone loved her. Normally I'm reasonably good with saying the right thing at the right time in the right place, but I wasn't quite sure what I should say about the king. Should I say, I'm really sorry to hear about your brother? You think that's just going to sound stupid and naff, and 700 other people will have said the same thing. So I just made a reference to it, and I just crossed my fingers, and I said, I hope things get better. Oh, bless me too.
But that was all I thought I could say.
We need him. We need him, Chantas. We need him. This is not the time. No, I'm serious. This is not the time for. We need the king. You can all be screaming and laughing at me. I don't care. I'll take your mockery. Yeah. But we need the king. We need that stability. I'm just going to say he's a great man. I know people knock him and this, that, and the other. He's a great man. And I've seen stuff on social media. God almighty, social media. Why is it that the king can jump the queue? Because he's the king, for Christ's sake. That's why.
That is
What do you
ridiculous.
think?
And
Yes,
he's not
it's not
jumping the queue.
They're
I
not
mean, he was at a
jumping
private
the-
hospital.
not
So,
jumping the bloody queue. What do you think? You're going.
no, crazy.
People,
Anyway.
people. Why are they so horrible? Why?
I'm going to tell you about some film and telly now before we run out of time.
No,
Just in case anybody wants something to watch, because there
course
are a
they
few
do.
good things to watch. I've also watched some absolute rubbish this week, but I'm not going to share that with you because it's a complete waste of everybody's time. But there is
Trigger point.
There is a new adaptation out of a book called One Day, which I think every woman I know read, a David Nichols book. Every woman I know read this book about 15 years ago. And it's a sort of rom-com, but to describe it as a rom-com is not really quite right. It's a drama with romantic overtones and undertones. And it's a sweet, gentle story. Two people mismatched on the last night at Edinburgh University. He's the toff and tall and blonde and pretty, and she's the northern working class clever clogs girl who comes from an Asian family.
Played by Sheridan Smith. I'm guessing.
No, not played by Sheridan Smith.
Good God, is that the one role she missed?
No, it's played by a lovely girl called Ambika Mod, who's terrific, actually. The last thing we saw her in was You Know When It Hurts. What was it called? The drama on
Ward
the
10?
No,
Dr. Kildare? Ben
the one
Casey?
written by the guy who went to your school.
Nigel Farage?
Who trained as a doctor.
Yeah.
Trained as a doctor, and it was all about what was going on inside medicine.
Oh, yes. Yes, he wrote the best-selling whatever it is. I didn't know he went to Dulwich. Okay.
Yeah,
know that.
he did. Anyway, there we are. So, but it's good. It's on Netflix. It's 14 episodes. The reason it's 14 is that it's always the same date over 14 years. So you get the story of these two people, but dislocated by 365 days in every single episode.
Like, what was it called? What was that Alan Alda thing he was in a million years ago as a play? Same time next year. Remember that? They made it into a movie.
Oh,
Neil Simon.
Remember that.
No? Oh. Neil Simon play called Same Time Next Year. And it's a couple who've been having an affair. It started at university or something, and it's gone on. And you just see them as the over many, many years as they meet. And sometimes it's romantic. Sometimes they can't stand each other. They meet one day a year to rekindle.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes they just row. Sometimes they go to bed. Sometimes they don't,
Oh, okay.
Neil Simon. It's kind of like, it was around about the time he was writing Plaza Suite and all that sort of stuff. It was great.
Right.
Anything with Alan Alda and Neil Simon can't be wrong. Now, because you are the queen of recommendations, Graham Pack saying, I binged on Bear and the second series of Fisk, as Chantal recommended. Also, I watched the first episode of Alda and look forward to the rest of the episode. Yes, you recommended that. Yeah. Good. There you go. That was you.
I'm glad. Those were, I think, they were highly regarded by everybody, not just me. I mean, I wasn't sort of following everybody else's recommendation, but when I watched them,
I've never heard of it.
I bet lots of other TV critics are going to say, "Do you know that's really good?" So yeah, they're good and worth watching.
Okie dokes. And Paul Claridge is saying very quickly. Paul Claridge is saying our flag means death.
I haven't watched it yet. It's supposed to be. I've half read the crits on it. It's on my list of things to watch, but I haven't yet watched it. What does Paul think of it?
Well, he seems to like it. It's on iPlayer. It's on iPlayer.
Yeah.
Do you know what I watched on iPlayer? I was so bored, and my head was all over the place. Got a lot of stuff to decide on. And on iPlayer, they've got from the archives.
Yeah.
Right? I watched two things that you're too young. One was Animal, Vegetable, or Mineral from 1954.
Wow.
Hello, and thank you for joining us this evening. Our panel today is Dr. Julius. It was unbelievable. And
it looked on radio as well, on the home service.
Yes, I think it was. You're probably Right. And then the other thing I watched was a show I used to love, but it looked like Out of the Ark. But in fact, it was from the 80s and it honestly looked like the 50s. Ask the Family with the sublime Robert Robinson, with a worst comb over in the world. But he was so urbane and witty. And I thought the guy was great. Never met him, obviously, because I was a kid. And it was so... I was thinking of you in as much as you think of production values of any show. And you take Animal, Vegetable, Mineral, which honestly doesn't look as good as the Daily Show, which is done on a budget, right? And you compare it to Michael McIntyre's like The Wheel, or you think, wow, and that's in 30 years. It's incredible,
Amazing.
really. It is incredible how it's
possibly
advanced.
50 years actually.
Oh God, everything.
Probably.
Jesus.
I can
I'm
remember
so showing my age. Everything's 30 years ago.
No, I can remember my mother wanting us as a family to go on Ask the Family.
You'd have been great.
Absolutely putting his foot down and saying not a chance.
Because we could have found footage of you as a little girl, and that would have been hilarious.
Well, everybody at that stage thought I looked like the little girl on the colour test card.
Oh, her, yes, in the middle. Like that. It's marvellous. And you see her now, she's about 102, or my age. Easily. Do you know, you're talking about time passing. Band on the Run, one of my favourite albums, Paul McCartney, Wings, right? 50 years old this week. 50, half a century old this week.
Wow.
Jeez.
Extraordinary.
I know.
Oh, well.
Yeah, Graham, I'm not putting that up, but you're quite right. I'm not putting that up, fella.
I love finding something sort of quirky and weird. And this week's quirky.
Look no further. Look no further than your old pal.
No further. If you didn't know, we were all made by aliens.
That's fact. I've said that.
Yes, they're coming back soon. There is a religion that I had literally never heard of called realism that was brought to us by a former journalist, a Frenchman. And in 1974, he said that he had bumped into some aliens, as you do in Clermont.
Probably in Asda. Probably in Asda.
Really?
Holding up the checkout. Could be. I always think.
Anyway, he said that they had claimed to have created the humans on Earth. They were going to come back soon. You later find out that he says he actually goes to their planet and comes back from
obviously.
And he creates this religion and gets followers. I mean, honestly, there are some really crazy people out there. If you want to feel sane today and you're worried about your mental health, watch this because it'll make you feel completely normal. Anyway, it was eventually in the 1990s, the French government said, you got to stop this. This is a cult. But there were thousands of people around the world who had taken on this crazy cultish religion. Quite a lot of it, just to warn everybody, quite a lot of it is around the fact that they are searching for the cosmic orgasm. So I
think it's down. I was too, and then I found it down the back of the sofa with the remote control. Who knew? And my cigar lighter. I couldn't find it for weeks. I was so pleased.
So if you want a good laugh, this is on Netflix, as is the other program I've just mentioned called One Day. It's called Rael, R-A-E-L, The Alien Prophet. It is the most bizarre story. It's in 4 episodes, I think, 1 hours.
Love it.
I've only watched the first episode, but I have been laughing my socks off all morning. And just before the end of the last episode, I turned around to my other screen. I thought, that's David Frost's voice, who, of course, David and I worked together for
many years.
And there's a clip of David interviewing this bloke on Breakfast with Frost or something. And I thought, oh my God, he'd obviously his notoriety had got us certainly as far as the David Frost show, which I was amazed about because I'd never heard of this.
No, nor me. I thought it was a make. I thought it was a make of non-iron shirt. You'd have to be very old to get that gag. Oh God, is it with Sting and Trudy? Oh, don't get me started. Please don't get me started on them. Please.
It is a good
Good
laugh.
luck
let
to
me
them.
tell
Just don't tell everybody about it. Just, great. Just don't have to spread the
you.
people. What are they like?
I know.
I'm just wondering, when the aliens came back, had they kept the receipt? Because frankly, we are a bloody great disappointment, the human race. If they kept the receipt like you do at, Tesco's or something, you can get it changed for just animals. That's what I'd do. I'd say, I don't like these human beings. We just have animals. And they go, well, okay.
There is one wonderfully batty moment where Rael decides that he needs to create the aliens' embassy on Earth.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
So he makes all these models of the building, and it looks like a spaceship where they are going to have their embassy on the planet.
You're not taking this seriously, are you? You're not allowing the alien marvelousness to inhabit you. Did David Frost say, no, it wouldn't have been him, it would have been Lloyd Grossman? Who lives in a cult like this? Jeez.
It is delightful.
I'm not speaking to Kimmy Lashmar because instead of being in the pissy rain in London or the UK, she's sitting around a pool in Lanzarote, and she said, everyone's wondering why I'm laughing. Yay. Oh, God. Paul Claridge is spot on. You want to see aliens in London? Simple. Board any night bus. Sit upstairs. Night buses scare the crap out of me. I won't go on them. There's something very creepy about them. Well, that could be my next book, The Night Bus. Yeah. That's a good one. Oh, yeah. I like that. Isn't that awful? It just occurred to me that. I like that. I'm writing it down. Night Bus. Love it. Okay. That's going to be the next book.
Okay. So Channel 5's got a new Neil Morrissey and Faye Ripley drama.
Oh, yes.
It's rather light. It's not the most erudite piece of drama production I've ever seen, but it's a sort of gentle little, where's this drama going?
Is it right up there with the intellectual capacity of Madame Blanc?
Yes. It's a bit like
Which is a huge hit.
No, it's very watchable. It's called Finders Keepers. And he is an amateur detectorist. He's just about to become, his daughter is just about to get married to a young man that he doesn't really like. And he takes him off for a day's detectoring.
With a what do you call it, metal detector thing? Just
metal detector.
He's not a detective. He's got a metal detector.
Yes.
Like Bill Wyman used to do. He used to go with Bill.
Did he?
Oh, Bill's crazy about, when Bill and I were very friendly, we'd go out metal detecting. He said, oh, come with me. And I'd go wandering around some field in the middle of bloody nowhere, and Bill's there with his metal detector. And the stuff, and then he'd get it and have it cleaned up. And it was all in a beautiful display cabinet, all the stuff he found. It was great. Anyway, there you go.
Well,
for me.
Basically, a hoard is found. And of course, they then have to decide what they're going to do with it. And this is, clearly, it's going to create a lot of family friction. So I'll leave it there. I've only done one episode, but it's watchable, but very gentle, something to do the ironing to, have on the background. Lovely to see Neil Morrissey and Faye Ripley. It's not going to really over-exercise your brain.
Well, isn't that a good thing? In many ways, it's a really good thing because we're living in such crazy times, and to have something. And I get what Kim is saying. I watched Madame Blanc for Girl Power. Well done, Sally Lindsay. She wrote it, she produces it, she stars in it. If you don't like it, fair enough, don't watch it. But bless her for doing it. Bless her for doing it, at least. And Death in Paradise came back with a bang this week.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're going to talk about it. I didn't want to preempt you.
No, I wasn't going to mention it because I haven't seen it, but it's always on my list.
Terrific episode. And I had a lot of fun because it stars in this particular episode Sean Maguire, who I shared a dressing room with for several months in Panto. And Sean and I became mates before he went off to Hollywood and everything became a big hit. And I was just ripping into him and he was ripping back. And the rest, and some of the cast members were joining in on the toing and froing. It was a lot of fun. It was an excellent episode. Excellent episode. I love that show. Death in Paradise.
Very good.
Chantal Rickards, you are a breath of fresh air. It's always
No,
wonderful
that's
to see you. We hang on your every word. I know, because so many people say, and sometimes they send me messages after the show or phone me, go, what was the name of that thing she said? I want to watch it. It sounded good. What was the name of it? I haven't written it down. I get in a complete mess. Take care, everybody. Chantal, thank you so, so much. I will see you next when I next see you next. Until then, please have a wonderful weekend. Try and stay out of trouble. Till then,